Hi everyone, thanks for joining on. I'm excited to have Sasha Wasley joining me today. Hi Sasha.
Hi, Jackie. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, just a little bit about Sasha. So, Sasha was born and raised in Perth, Western Australia. She completed a PhD in feminist literature at Murdoch University in 2006 and went on to work as a copywriter on topics ranging from mine safety to sex therapy. That sounds very interesting. Um, Sasha's debut novel was published in 2015, after which she gave up her copywriting business to pursue her fiction writing career. Sasha is passionate about levelling the playing field for members of the community experiencing disadvantage. She is an ambassador for the Books and Homes Australia charity, which provides books of choice for children in disadvantaged circumstances to keep in their home libraries. Today, she lives and writes in the Perth Hills region with her partner and two daughters. A lover of animals, Sasha spends her free time pottering in the garden with her flock of backyard chickens. And her latest book is A Caravan Like a Canary. Hopefully, you can see my copy there. And just want to also mention that thanks to Pantera Press, if people watching ask a question during the Facebook Live, they'll have a chance to win a copy of A Caravan Like a Canary. So all you need to do is just type your question in comments and I can read it out. So thanks again, Sasha, for joining us.
Thank you.
Would you like to start off by telling us a bit about A Caravan Like a Canary?
Absolutely. I would love to. So, first of all, just want to say I'm grateful to be working and presenting today from Ymca country. This is my book, A Caravan Like a Canary, which came out at the end of March. And it is the fifth adult title that has been published by me in Australia. The book is about Tara Button, who had a rough start, let's just put it that way. So she's come from a background where there were some things that happened that were quite unpleasant and nasty in her childhood, involving her family, including her mum, her dad, and her brother Zach. So Tara is now an adult, and she hears from her mum, who she really doesn't have much to do with these days. Her mum says to her, Tara, I need you to bring me the family caravan up to a town called Elsewhere. Now, the town of Elsewhere is basically, if you imagine where Perth is and imagine where Broome is, it's that long a drive. So she's got to tow this rickety old caravan all the way up the coast of WA. And she doesn't know why her mum is so desperate to have the family caravan brought to her, especially since a lot of the horrible things that happened to Tara and Zach happened in that caravan. So it's kind of an opportunity for Tara to revisit, if you could call it an opportunity, revisit some of the nasty things that went on. So when she was 11 and her brother was 8, they went on an ill-fated caravan trip up the coast, and they kind of never really recovered from it. Tara is now a very organised person. She tries to keep everything neat and tidy in her life. She works hard. She plays by the rules. She lives by the script. Zach has gone the opposite way, which, if you have trauma in your life, really there are a few different ways you could go. And he's kind of gone wild, off the tracks. He's involved in kind of petty crime and recreational drug use and all kinds of mischief. And Tara spends most of her life trying to get him out of trouble or keep him out of trouble. So he says to her, no worries, Tars, I can get this caravan all registered and ready to go up the coast. And she doesn't really believe him, but to her surprise, he actually manages to get it done. He doesn't tell her that tagging along will be his best mate, Dan, who's always had a little bit of a candle for Tara. And then obviously it's that revisiting. So when you have something difficult happen in your life when you're young, sometimes you don't really understand all the different things that are happening or the context or why people do and say the things they do. So this is kind of a way for Tara to reconnect with what happened and find out some of the story around that, especially about her mum. And she kind of revisits some of the old places that they went and stopped in the caravan the first time round. And it's an opportunity to find out the truth and some secrets and opportunity to heal, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, and I have to say I really loved reading it. I've also read Peach Queen for the
Cute.
and really loved that as well. I'm interested to know, what was the first thought you had for a caravan like a canary?
The first, do you mean like the inspiration?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first, yeah.
This one had a bit of a weird inspiration, which most of my books seem to have. I was driving home one day and I spotted a little red caravan, like a vintage caravan, painted to look like a ladybug, just near my house, actually. And it got me thinking, what's the past of that caravan? It's a bit battered, but obviously it's been done up and looking kind of retro and cute. But I did wonder, what happened in that caravan and what's its history? So I was sort of, at the time, I was looking for something to write, and that was kind of the trigger, I guess, for the story. I wanted to have a caravan that looked cute and nice and fun and happy, but didn't necessarily have fun, nice, happy things associated with it in real life. So the caravan in the book is bright yellow, which is why the book is called A Caravan Like a Canary.
And you're right, like going back and forth a bit in time. I'm interested to know how you write like that. Like, will you write the current time first, or how do you actually go about doing that?
Yeah, I sort of wrote it chronologically until suddenly I found myself writing a flashback scene, and I realised that I was going to need more. So then every couple of chapters I would think, oh, this is kind of relevant to what happened back then. So I would write just a little snippet of something that happened in the past to give more of a picture of why Tara and Zach have ended up where they are in life now. And then at the end of the process, when I'd kind of written the whole thing and I had a few flashback scenes throughout and I submitted it to my publisher, they were quite keen to see a few more of the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to see a bit more kind of, especially the relationship between Tara and her nan. Some of the old connection between Tara and Dan, and also the mother, have a bit more of her in there.
Yeah. Well, I have to. The relationship part of it, I really liked. Yeah, as well as the mystery of slowly unraveling what happened.
Yeah, that is the nice thing about flashbacks. You can kind of use them to illuminate moments from the past, and I guess that's a little bit like real life, isn't it? Because sometimes we're going along and we see something like a red caravan, and it brings back something that happened to us, and whether we dwell on that or not, it's still there.
And what sort of research did you have to do?
Well, there were, when you're writing, and you would know this because you write as well.
No,
you don't write?
No.
Oh, okay. I noticed there were lots of authors in your group, so I figured that maybe it was run by an author as well. When you write, you're constantly researching, and it's actually quite a pain because sometimes you're got flow happening and you're kind of tracking along quite nicely, and you have to stop and research, how far is it from Perth to Geraldton or something like that, or, what sites can you see in this town. So lots of little things like that. But then some of the more thorny kind of legal and policing issues, I needed to turn to an expert there because I'm not a cop, and I haven't got a cop background, and unfortunately I'm not married to a cop, or don't have a cop brother or sister. So I had to reach out, and so I put something on Facebook saying, hey, does anyone know a cop? Because I really need to talk to one. And luckily a friend of mine is married to one, so he very kindly let me ring him and pick his brains about a few legal issues later on in the book. And he did such a great job that it really allowed me to make the book that bit more realistic. And I ended up naming a character after him because his name is Bull, and there's a cop in the book called Bulldog as well.
And
Thank you, Bulldog.
no, that's great that you've got a character named after him. We've got quite a few people watching, so just wanted to remind people watching, if you have a question for Sasha, please type it in comments and I can read it out, and you'll have a chance to win your own copy of A Caravan Like a Canary. I've got a question from Kelly. She said, your book titles have a meaning when you've read the book, but they're also very unusual. She wonders if you choose your titles.
I do, much to the concern of my publisher, I'm sure. Actually, they've been really good. They've never wanted to change them, so that's been really nice. Spring Clean for the Peach Queen just worked. So when that kind of landed in my head and I presented it to my family, I said, how about this? They all resoundingly said, yes, that's a great title. I was like, okay, that's great. So then I kind of wanted something, again, a bit quirky, a bit unusual, a bit mysterious, I suppose, to make you kind of go, oh, what's this about? And my next book is titled The Snapshots from Home League, which also sounds a bit weird and quirky because none of us have heard of that. But it's actually based on a real scheme that operated during the First World War.
Okay.
So if anyone's interested, maybe ask in the comments and I can let you know a bit more about that. But I won't dwell on that right now since we're talking about Caravan.
And what you said about the title, like when I saw the title, A Caravan Likes to a Caravan, but it was very, very soon revealed that it was a yellow caravan, and that's the reason.
Yeah, we tried to spell that out a bit on the blurb as well, so that people wouldn't be too confused.
Yeah, but it's sort of, the title is something that sort of attracted me as well. Belinda wonders if the places and towns are real or fictional.
Yes and no, both. So some of the towns in there, actually, I've named and they're real towns, but most of them are fictional. And the reason for that is I didn't want any town to read about itself and go, well, that's not a very nice thing to say about us. They're kind of a melding of different towns, of my experiences of visiting regional areas and my imagination. But some of them have little features from real places that people will recognise. For example, there's a place in the book called Wilkins Find, which has got a wandering horse that visits the bar every afternoon. And there is a real place called Kukaini in WA that has a wandering horse.
Oh, really?
Every afternoon. So when I read that, I thought I've got to put that in a book.
Yeah.
It's just...
And
sorry. The town of Elsewhere, where it's a pivotal or an important place. That's based quite closely on Broome. It's got all the colours and all those, it's in the East Kimberley, and I think Broome is quite a recognisable place for people right across Australia. So if you're reading the book and you're reading about Elsewhere, then picture Broome.
Okay. And Kelly wonders if you get a lot of feedback from your first book being a cleaning book.
I haven't become an influencer yet, so I'm not a Marie Kondo expert. I'm more like Lottie in that I kind of just read a few blog posts and I know about the movement, but I don't actually use the decluttering, because for people who don't know, the book kind of centers on the reason it's called Spring Clean for the Peach Queen is the character Lottie. She's kind of a fake expert in that Marie Kondo method where you hold something in your hands and if it sparks joy, you keep it, and if it doesn't, you give it away. You service and give it away. So no, I haven't had anyone kind of asking for advice on cleaning, or but they do often ask me if I do follow that method, and I wish I did, but unfortunately my house is I really need to.
And Kelly also wonders if you know all your twists before starting, or do they develop as you write?
Do I know my what, sorry?
Your twists.
Oh, my twists. Some I know and some develop as I write. So if you're a writer, you'll know that writing has kind of got a magic to it where you don't always know what's going to happen, even though you're writing the book.
Mm.
Which is, I think, why I love it so much, because I'll kind of have, there's a quote from a famous author whose name escapes me at the moment that says, writing is like driving a car at night. And you've got your headlights on. You can only see as far as the headlights shine, but you sort of roughly know where the destination is. And that's exactly what it's like. I always know roughly where the destination is, but, you know, sometimes the headlights will shine on something that surprises me, and that ends up in the story.
Yeah, no, that's a good description.
Mm.
And I'm also wondering, like, about readers contacting you. I presume you get a lot of readers contacting you. Have you ever had any reader contact you with something you'd like to share with us? Maybe something weird or something that really touched you or something like that?
Off the top of my head, there was one woman who contacted me because she had the same surname as a character, quite a minor character in Spring Clean for the Peach Queen. And she was quite excited. She'd never seen her name anywhere before. It's quite an unusual name. And that was really sweet. So she sort of told me about where the people who have that name live and all of this. That was good.
Yeah.
And then I did have another writer contact me last week, because I've got a children's book that's just come out, and one of the characters has a rare condition where she's allergic to sunlight, which is an actual thing.
Yeah.
And there can be a couple of reasons why you can be allergic to sunlight. And the writer that contacted me told me that her brother had a condition where he had a terrible reaction to sunlight, unfortunately, which was a terminal condition. So that was kind of, a touching moment as well, to hear from her that she felt glad to be reading about something that had kind of impacted her family that way. So, that was nice to hear. Sad to hear, but nice to hear as well.
And what made you want to write a child's book about that condition? Is it something you've been touched with, or?
Well, I think, most people have been touched with serious allergic conditions in their lives. If they haven't got one in their close family or one themselves, then they know someone who has. And one of my good friends has a daughter who, when she was younger, had a very serious allergic condition. So that was always something that kind of was in my mind, especially when she'd come over and play with my daughter. And, I'd always be kind of thinking about that and I guess empathizing as well. The book itself isn't about that condition or the girl with that condition. She's a character in it, and I didn't want it to be all about, the condition. I actually wanted it to be about the characters and two girls who kind of are solving this mystery. And they just happen to have some, disabilities, I suppose you'd call it, or, one's got this severe allergy and the other one has a problem with her leg. So those things are kind of peripheral, I suppose, to the story, but they're there.
And do you want to tell us what the name of the book is and what sort of age group it's aimed at?
Sure. I've got a copy right here, so I'll show you. So this is my children's book.
Yeah.
You can see that I've used a pen name for this, Ash Harrier, just to keep it separate from my adult books. And it's the first one in the Alice England mysteries. It's a book it's for, let's say, 9 to 13-year-olds, what they call mid-grade readers. And it's about a girl who has a strange gift or talent, I suppose you'd call it. She's grown up in her family's funeral home. And when she places, her job in the funeral home is to kind of arrange the mementos and trinkets on the bodies. And when she touches the things that were asked to go in the casket with the deceased, sometimes she can feel a bit of their story,
really?
bit of their past. So sometimes she realizes there's a mystery there that no one knows about.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a good.
Solving these mysteries.
Yeah, sounds good. And it's going to be a series?
It is, yeah. So book 2 comes out in January. School holiday reading, kind of early January, and then book 3 should be out around this time next year.
Sounds good.
So those ones are coming out quite quickly.
Yeah. And I said in your intro that you're an ambassador for the Books and Homes. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so it's a fantastic program. It's a bit like other children's literacy programs in that it is about getting books into the hands of children. But I think its point of difference and the reason it resonates so strongly with me is that, of course, when you put books in a child's hand, if it's something they're not really interested in, that book is probably going to get stepped on and shoved under the bed or thrown away or not read, basically. So the key to this one is that they provide catalogues that are a lot like the Scholastic Book Club catalogues. And the children, and these are kids who come from kind of disadvantaged circumstances. So they might go to a school that is in a lower socioeconomic area, or they might come from a background where English is the second language. So they kind of go into a school with an intensive English centre in it. And they get to choose 3 books per term out of this catalogue. So they get to choose books that they are interested in. And that's kind of where the power is. So if, there are all the fantastic books that are out. And then there are books about Minecraft and books about, spot the character books and things like that. So there's kind of a whole range of stuff that should appeal to pretty much every kid. And there are stories where there was one girl who was at a school and family didn't have a lot of money. And she was choosing her 3 books, and the teacher was surprised to notice that she'd chosen 2 middle grade books and 1 picture book. And she said, you can read more than this. So what appealed to you about this book? And she said, oh no, that's for my little sister for Christmas. Yeah.
No,
So
that
it's
sounds
a beautiful
great.
program. If people are interested in donating or becoming corporate sponsors to sponsor a school, they just need to go to booksinhomesaustralia.org.au, I think it is. If you just Google Books in Homes Australia, you'll come to the website.
No, it sounds great. Kim wonders what you find is the main difference between writing for children and writing for adults.
I think you have to be, I don't know, I'm a little hard on myself with my adult books in terms of the research. I think because the children's books, you can kind of, you can go in quite wild directions with those. My books are kind of, they've got that little fantasy touch in them, so they don't have to be 100% realistic. Whereas with my adult books, I try to be really, really realistic. And that can involve a lot of research.
Yeah.
They're also a lot longer. And some of the issues are darker. So you've got kind of, you've got the emotional weight to deal with as well, which I try to keep things quite a bit lighter in the kids' books, which means that they're probably not as taxing for me to write. And I don't have to try to be as kind of empathetic or sensitive in that sense.
And do you write them at the same time? Or you sometimes do?
Depends on deadlines. At the moment, I'm writing a children's book and I don't have anything competing with that, which is nice. Sometimes, I have to write them at the same time. Or I'll be editing one and writing the other.
And Kelly wonders if there's any books that you'd like to recommend to us.
Yes, absolutely. So I just finished reading Maya Linnell's Paperback Hill.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Because I'm actually catching up with Maya and we're doing an event together on Thursday. So
nice.
That was a great motivation to read it, and it was a fantastic book, so I recommend that. I love crime and mystery, so I'm just grabbing up my my reading list here. I loved Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty.
Yes, yep.
That was my first Moriarty that I've read, and I loved it. I really like Richard Osman's books, his Thursday Murder Club ones.
Oh, yes, yeah.
One of the best books I read recently was The End of the World is Bigger Than Love by Davina Bell, which is...
I haven't heard that one.
You know what, it's categorised as young adult, but I would actually say that any age group could read that and should, because the writing is stellar. It's just beautiful. You should be winning so many prizes for that. I read They Both Die at the End, which is another young adult. Fantastic story. Be a story too, so that's something to kind of take me out of my usual stream of reading. And I read A Glass House of Stars by Shirley Ma, which is a refugee story, but also kind of magical realism. I'm really getting into some kids and youth and young adult and stuff recently. But if anyone's after a really, really good mystery writer, look no further than Tana French. She's amazing.
Yeah, I've read
Anything by
a
her.
couple. Yeah, she
Yeah.
has written some good ones. Yeah. Joe wonders if you are a pantser or a plotter.
I'm a pantser as far as I can get, and then I have to become a plotter because I get stuck. And I think a lot of people are like that. You know, I like to think that I can kind of just make it up as I go along, but at some point you have to question where the story is going. And that means coming back to my notebook and I grab a pen and some paper and I just sit down and write screeds of notes on why is this character doing this? What is their motivation? How can I show this about their development? And that's the point where things usually come back together and I can start writing again.
And Belinda wonders if you've had a favourite character to write.
Oh, it's probably Alice from my children's book because she's stuck with me for years now. She actually came out in a different iteration as a young adult character years ago, and then the publisher that I'd gone with actually folded, so they don't exist anymore. So I got my rights back. I spoke to my current publisher, and we decided that it would work better as a middle grade book. But it's the same person, and I really like her. She's just so blunt and honest, and just constantly trying to practice tact, which is something her father tries to teach her.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I really like Tara, to be honest, from Caravan. She's kind of, she's a bit closed off at the beginning, but she really blossoms, I think, and she kind of comes into finding out what sparks her joy, I suppose, to spring clean.
Yeah. And do you want to tell us about your next book that will be coming out?
I'd love to. I'm really excited about the next one. It's my first foray into historical. So back in World War One and World War Two, actually, there was a scheme that was operated by the YMCA. So they operated a whole bunch of things called comfort schemes, which was designed to give comfort to the soldiers at the front.
Okay.
And one of them was the Snapshots from Home League, where they recruited civilian photographers to visit the soldiers' homes and take photos of the family, loved ones, pets, the house, things like that. And then those would get sent off to the soldiers, so they had something to kind of keep them going. And it was a gorgeous scheme, really successful, very popular. It was all by the YMCA, so it didn't cost the soldiers anything. They were quite worried at first, some of them, that their families would be charged. But once they realised it was free, they were flooded. The YMCA was flooded with requests, and I got all kinds of weird and wonderful requests. You know, it would be the new chicken coop, the new plough, or my pet dog. It's not just loved ones; it was also things that they loved around home. So my character is a young school teacher in a country town, and she gets kind of roped into this scheme. So it's about her meeting all these different people, going into their homes and taking photographs for the soldiers, and also learning a lot about the kind of social political stuff going on at the time, just through meeting people and having her mind broaden, I suppose. So, talking about research, this one was a doozy in terms of research.
Yeah.
And so that one comes out next March, and
No, that sounds really good and a little bit different from, like you said, from what you've written before.
Yeah.
And were there photos around from then that you could actually look when you were researching?
Yes. One of the best things I stumbled across was a website that, because the reason I chose this topic is very strange. I was watching Antiques Roadshow one night.
Okay.
And as you do. And this woman came on and she had an old scrapbook that had belonged to someone in her family. And it was full of these photos from the Snapshots from Home League. And this was in, I want to say Leeds, but I might be wrong. It's somewhere in the north of England. Birmingham, actually, could be Birmingham. Yes, Birmingham. So this was when Antiques Roadshow went to Birmingham. And turns out the Birmingham University has actually got the Ymca Collection. So they've got a historical archive collection there. So when I found this out, I emailed the person who's in charge of that collection. And she was amazing. She actually went to the old YMCA magazines, opened each one that had an article about the Snapshots from Home League, and took a photo of the page for me.
Really?
So I've got like old photos, old stories, and some of the stories are just magic. Like there was this guy who asked for a photo of this girl that he was sweet on. And she was so angry and offended when the photographer turned up because she didn't think she was like his girlfriend or anything. So she was kind of like, I don't think so. And if I want to send him a photo, I'll go and organise it myself. Thank you very much. So it was kind of some strange little moments that happened. And those things made it into my book.
No, it sounds like a great book, and I'm sure you found lots of great things when you were researching.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you could share with us, what have you found to be the most difficult part of your writing process?
It's always challenging when you get what's called your structural edits back from your publisher. So that's kind of the first, so they've read it, that's the first read, and then they come back with some big ideas. And it's usually stuff like, how about you just remove this character altogether?
Okay.
Or how about you build a whole backstory for this person? Or I'm not feeling this relationship. Can you add to it? So it's kind of the really big structural work. And there's always that sinking feeling when you open that email and there's a whole lot of stuff that you got to do when you thought that the story was, finished and fabulous and you've sent it off all full of optimism. However, having said that, sorry?
No, keep going, sorry.
I was just going to add that by the end of those structural edits, which only normally take a couple of weeks, you feel like they're going to take months and then you normally fly through them. Then you're prouder than ever of your book, and to send it back and have the publisher then say, that's magic, that's what we wanted, then that's a really good feeling as well. But it is, that sinking feeling when you get your edits back.
Have you ever had a character or part of the book that they've told you that they want you to get rid of in the book, but you've felt really strongly against that and fought for keeping it?
If I feel strongly enough about it, I will keep, it's usually only a line or a paragraph or a side plot. But generally I do trust the publisher because they're so experienced in the industry. They know what people like to read. And if they say, look, this stuff is just not doing it for me, then I know it either needs a really good overhaul or just to go altogether. And I don't always change things. In fact, I rarely change things to the way they exactly suggested because, I don't know, there's something contrary in me that sort of says, no, I'm going to do it my way or not at all. So I do make a change, but not necessarily the one they suggest.
And when you finish writing a book, is there anything you do special to celebrate that?
I have this idea in my head that I'm going to take a couple of weeks off. But the first few nights are like a living hell. I have nothing to do. I'm sitting there, I'm fidgeting. There's nothing I want to watch on TV. I just want to get my computer out and keep tinkering with something or write something. But I know I have to take a break. So that's hard. I usually just try and go, hooray, I'm finished. And I'm going to take a little break and, pull out the embroidery or something, do a jigsaw puzzle. But I don't necessarily enjoy the break, so I don't know why I treat that as a reward.
Well, thanks so much for talking to me. It's been great chatting to you.
Thank you. It's been lovely talking to you, and amazing, awesome questions from your book club as well.
Yeah, there's been some great questions from people. Do you want to let people know how they can keep in touch with you?
Yes, so I'm on Facebook and you can just find me by looking for Sasha Wasley. I'm also on Insta, @SashaWasley_author, or just go to my website, which is wasley.com. And you can also have a look up Ash Harrier if you're interested in my children's books.
Oh, thanks for that. And bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.